Hello everyone. I'm Mythical9. I'll be your commentator for Yashi's Fire Emblem 6 run at RTA in Japan. I want to make it clear up front, I'm not a Fire Emblem speedrunner. I signed up back when there was no commentator assigned. And RTA in Japan is such a wonderful event, I wanted to help out any way I could. So I've been studying Yashi's speedrun like crazy. I do have several years of Fire Emblem experience, so I'm pretty familiar with the techniques Yashi will be using, but there will likely be some inaccuracies in my commentary, so I apologize for this ahead of time. I also want to make it clear I am not translating the original Japanese commentary. I am dubbing over it with my own, but I have done my best to represent Yashi and RTA in Japan for all of you. Now, Fire Emblem Fuyin no Tsurugi, aka the Binding Blade, is the 6th game in the series, and it's the first on the Game Boy Advance. It hasn't been officially localized into English, so it's a good choice for a Japanese marathon. It's also the one with Roy, your boy Roy from the Smash Brothers. It's a good deal harder than its prequel, Fire Emblem 7, the Blazing Sword, also known in the West as just Fire Emblem. But thankfully, we've got all the strategies we need to blitz through it, which includes, but are not limited to, some of the following. I'm going to go over these now before the run starts, because for a tactics RPG, this run is super fast-paced. I've done a practice run, and I've been unable to say everything I want to say about what's happening while it's happening. So I'm going to try to get some of these out of the way ahead of time. First off is 1-2 range weapons. Some weapons can be used from either 1 or 2 squares away, the main two being javelins and hand axes. Often in Fire Emblem, you face a mix of enemies that attack at both ranges, so being able to hit back at every enemy is hugely important, and characters who can effectively use 1-2 range weapons are more valuable. Mounted units are really good because they can canto or move again after doing pretty much anything with their turn that isn't attacking. There are some Fire Emblems where actually they can canto even after attacking, and they're even better, but they're good enough in these games than the GBA games. Often it is necessary in a speedrun to rescue, take, drop, trade units to reposition for various reasons, and so mounted units can still canto after all of those actions. Flying units are really good because they can avoid all of the terrain that slows you down and is sometimes completely impassable for units on foot. Many strats involve a flying unit ferrying key units directly to the end of the map. A lot of Fire Emblem games will give you a unit who is much more powerful than everyone else, who you can rely on in the early game. Players have named this archetypal character after the first character to fill the role, Jagen. So in Fire Emblem 6, like Fire Emblem 7, your Jagen is Marcus, and he's a paladin with well-rounded stats and access to a high damage silver lance that sort of offsets his low strength. I say low, it's still higher than everyone else you have at that point, but it's a little bit low for his level. So Marcus will be doing a bunch of the heavy lifting for the early chapters. And then the big one, the big thing that shapes the entire speedrun that is really not going to be apparent is RNG manipulation. The GBA Fire Emblem games are particularly susceptible to this. The logic that generates the random numbers that determine whether attacks hit or are crits and various other things, it's so well understood that players are able to perfectly control the outcome of fights. I'm going to gloss over the specifics. I don't have the knowledge to accurately convey them. But to summarize, the game is going to start with some random number at the start of the run and only generates a new one when an action is performed that needs one. And these actions are completely under the player's control. So, with a lot of planning, a player can manipulate the random number generator to turn unlikely favorable outcomes into complete certainties. Every hit, miss, crit, level up, and the entire run is completely mapped out. None of it is, left up to chance. So the result is something more like a real-time tool-assisted speedrun, which is it gives Fire Emblem speedrunning a unique sort of characteristic. The most useful technique for manipulating the random number generator is drawing arrows when selecting where to move a character. For whatever reason, the game uses random numbers to decide if an arrow should turn left or right when it draws a path to any given square. So by moving your cursor in specific ways, the game will draw arrows of specific lengths that advances the RNG a specific amount. Ideally, past numbers that would result in your attacks missing, enemy attacks hitting, upcoming levels being bad. And the downside of this, of course, is that any errant cursor movement over the entire run could accidentally draw an arrow that will upset the careful manipulation that you've planned out. So if this happens, thankfully, there is a way to fix it. You can soft reset the game and load back in. If this was not the case, this would be a super, super scary game to play at a marathon. This run is going to be something like 90, 100 minutes long. And I don't even want to think about having to be absolutely perfect on your cursor movement for the full 100 minutes, especially because you'll see the speed at which Yashi is going to be moving the cursor around. It's a really fast-paced run. So I am simultaneously happy to have gotten through my entire preamble about Fire Emblem, but I fear I've started too soon. I don't know when this run will start. I suppose I've got one more thing to tell you about, which is the story of the game. I do have notes here. I have many notes that I've compiled, including notes about the story. I forgot what happens in this game. It's been that long since I've played it. So I've watched a 7-hour video at ×2 speed that has every cutscene in the game to remind myself what happens in the story. The run is fast-paced enough that I will not have time to get into the details of what's happening in the story. I will do my best to sort of paraphrase what's been happening whenever I get the chance. But I suppose I've got some time to at least set the stage here. Basically, 1,000 years ago, humans and dragons lived together in harmony, and then the Scouring happened, where the humans have turned on the dragons. They drove them out of the realm. They forged 8 legendary weapons to give to 8 legendary heroes to fight the dragons. The dragons were banished, and humans sort of populated the realm. And then we fast forward 1,000 years to the humans all having their separate kingdoms, each founded by each of the 8 heroes. And broadly speaking, the story is about the good guys of Lycia fighting against the big bad King Zephiel of Bern, who has begun waging war on the entire continent. Now, somehow, I have miraculously timed this perfectly to the start of the run, so I'm excited.
で、カウントダウン5から始めるんで、ヤシ君よろしくお願いします。ここで、最初から始めるで、ノーマルを選択したタイミングで
This is going to be an all chapters run, so we will need to fulfill all of the requirements to unlock several side chapters and eventually some extra chapters at the end of the game as well. So we're going to be seeing the full game today. Yeah, so many runners have been doing cosplay. Alright, so here we go. Chapter 1. The Lycian army has gone to fight Bern, and bandits realize no one's around to protect town, so they've come to loot. We've got Boars, a knight with high defense and low movement, so we don't need him. We need units who move far. We've got Wolt, who is an archer, which means he's unable to counterattack melee units on enemy phase, which is like 80% of what you do in Fire Emblem speedruns, so he's pretty bad. Alan and Lance are the red and green so-called Christmas cavaliers of this game, and like most cavaliers, they're pretty alright if you train them, but we're not going to take the time to do that. In this run, they'll mostly be using their high movement and canto to rescue and maneuver while pitching in occasionally in combat. And there's Marcus tearing off into the north, carrying Roy. We've actually, I think, manipulated misses on these enemies on purpose, because Marcus is wielding his silver lance, and it's very strong but low durability. So I don't think he wants to waste his durability on these low-tier enemies. So he purposely misses there. Here's some more. This is the arrow drawing I was talking about to manipulate the RNG, and I think that was a mistake. You can see how easy it is to move the cursor incorrectly. So that was a quick reset to make sure that it's done correctly. Visits the village to get 5,000 gold. Gold is just good for buying some stuff. And the RNG manipulation, you can see it's very specific. Roy is going to get dropped into a whole bunch of enemies. He lands a crit. That's a pretty low chance of that happening, and he gets some experience for it. It's going to be necessary a lot of the time to have a fast-moving unit carry the hero Roy up to the throne and then drop him off in a whole cloud of enemies. And then we're going to try to, manipulate the RNG so that Roy survives these suicide throne drops. Roy himself is a little bit more frail than you would like, but we're going to RNG manipulate his level ups, and that means he's pretty quickly going to be able to handle himself. Now, Marcus, see this fort here? Marcus was unable to reach the fort on his turn. He was one movement square short. So that's why we're going to pick him up with, I think that was Lance, and then Alan is going to come in, and he's going to take Marcus and then drop him on the fort. And this is a pretty common maneuver here. You can rescue someone, but you can't then drop them on the same turn. So you will have someone else come along and take and then drop. So this take-drop maneuver is something you're going to see a lot. And they also, along the way, traded Marcus a javelin and an iron lance that they're not going to use, and Marcus will, because he's going to be doing so much of the fighting. He's going to need a ton of weapons to do the fighting with. And this fort is perfect for him. He holds the bottleneck, he kills all of these enemies. Everyone else is safe. He also leaves this enemy alive, so Roy is able to come in, get the kill. The manipulation here of Roy's level up. He's going to get HP, strength, speed, luck, and defense, which is a really good level up for him. It's more common to get something like 3-ish stats on Fire Emblem characters when they level up. There's going to be a big focus on manipulating strength to do more damage for obvious reasons, speed to be able to double attack enemies, which means you're doing twice as much damage. That's important. We had a mistake, by the way. I told you, one small movement mistake, and suddenly the RNG manipulation is totally off, and sometimes it's just difficult to fix. So we're going to have to replay these opening chapters, or opening moves, rather. You can see there's the trade of the javelin. You can trade and rescue at the same time on the same turn. And we're going to see that as well here. We're going to see trade, take, and drop. Here, take Iron Lance, take, drop on fort, and then Canto away. So like 4 things all done in rapid succession. This is the sort of thing that gives Fire Emblem its specific tactical flavor that I think really makes it special and is part of what I really like about it. So some units are going to join in the bottom right area of the map here. There they all are. These are mercenaries hired by our father. The 2 axe guys are kind of whatever. There's Deke, the sword guy, the mercenary. He's pretty good. His base stats are pretty solid. But he's not quite good enough for us. We need units who can fly, units who can move far, and he doesn't do these things, so we're not going to bother with him. But he is going to help out a tiny bit later on. And this is, I'm going to call her Thani, but, you could call her Shauna, Shani. There is no official, or there are multiple official names for these characters, as well as fan-translated names from a fan translation patch that a lot of people have adopted. So there's a lot of different names for these characters. I apologize if I'm using the one that you don't think is correct. But Thani's going to be hugely important. You can see she can fly. This is something that no one else can do. We can RNG manipulate anyone to have really good stats, but no amount of manipulation is going to have someone grow wings. So Thani is going to be our focus. We're going to try to get her experience as much as possible while using her to accomplish the objectives, like bringing Roy to the throne on this next turn. So we're searching for a long time to find the correct RNG because something crazy is really about to happen. Roy's going to crit the boss again. Then he's going to level up and get 6 points here. HP, strength, skill, speed, luck, res, everything but defense. And then he's going to survive all of these combats against all these other units. He's going to crit that guy for extra experience, right? This is a super, super unlikely event. I don't know what the odds of this naturally happening are. Probably less than 1%. So I think we're even lucky that it only takes this long to find this sequence of events in the RNG table. But it's a good time to point out that, you know, Roy didn't gain defense on his level up, for example. It wasn't... He could have. He's going to gain defense later. It's important for him to get at least some defense, but we didn't get it now because everything we just manipulated was already so hard. If you were to add in, okay, do all of that stuff, but also get defense, who knows how far you're going to have to look into the RNG numbers before the sequence you need comes up. It can sometimes take like 30 seconds solid of moving the cursor around, if not more. So there is this concept of good enough. You got to know when the thing that you know, the outcome is good enough to do what you need it to. And that was definitely already pretty darn good. So we're on to the next chapter. This is a fortress level that has some goodies, but we're not going to be picking any of them up. We manipulate another really good level up for Roy. That was strength, skill, speed, luck. Turn 2, we're going to have Roy clear the way for Marcus with a crit. Whenever possible, we're going to try to have Marcus moving his full range of movement towards the throne, so he is going to get there in as few squares as possible. Everyone else is just kind of working to make that happen. Now, Alan is holding an Armor Slayer. This is a sword he picked up in the previous chapter when he went and visited the village in the top left. That's going to be important later. Here's Thany's level up. She only starts with 4 strength, so RNG manipulating her early level ups to make sure that she gets the strength she needs goes with her already fantastic speed, and it doesn't take long before she turns into a scary offensive unit. She's already one-rounding these soldiers, though the soldiers are pretty weak. It's not really a sign of greatness if you are able to kill a soldier in 1 round of combat. Here Thany is going to intentionally move in a way that all of the soldiers can reach her so that she can kill all of them and soak up all of that juicy experience. She's also standing on a forest, which is going to give her some extra evasion. Marcus is up front. He's getting close to finally gaining a level. As a pre-promoted unit, he gains a much less experience per kill than all of the other units, which is why a lot of new players don't want to use him in the early game. They're like, oh, he's stealing the experience. But in the speedrun, we are more than happy to have Marcus do as much as we need him to in order to speed things up. We're going to get enough experience for the units who need it. Indeed, Marcus himself does need some of this experience. He will fall behind a little bit in terms of strength and speed if we don't get him these at least a couple levels. So Thany gets a kill, Marcus goes up and equips a hand axe. A lot of ranged and melee enemies are going to be coming after him on this next turn. And here's the level up for Marcus. Strength, speed, and luck to sort of maintain his offense. His defense and HP and everything, it's good enough. We don't really need to worry about it. Also, his growth rates in those stats are pretty low, so it would probably be a lot of work to find somewhere in the random number table where he would actually gain those stats. So Alan trades Marcus the Armor Slayer, and Marcus equips it and then walks over and stands in front of the boss, ready for combat. Roy is dropped, ready to take the throne. So the Armor Slayer is triple a damage, well, triple might, I guess, against the armored enemies, like armor knights and generals. Shaney is going to pick up one last kill with a crit before we end the map, just for a little bit of extra experience. But yeah, effective weapons are super good. They have a base attack of, you know, something like 6 or 8 or something, and then they are tripled to 18 or 24 when they are used against an effective enemy. So they are super deadly. This map may look familiar if you've played Fire Emblem 7. This is the Kingdom of Laos. We're passing through here. We skipped the story where Hector is gravely wounded. And before he dies, he's able to tell Roy, our hero, that Byrne has somehow gained control of dragons. And his daughter Lilina can tell everyone where in Ostia they can find a weapon to fight them. So on our way to Ostia, we pass through Laos. But the Lord here has betrayed us. He is working with Byrne and has laid this trap. So we send Thane and Marcus just way out into the field to just fight all these guys. Thane's a weaker target, so they favor attacking her if they get the chance. So all three come in here, and she's going to get beat up quite a bit. This is a, we could have found some kind of RNG manipulation to make all of these attacks miss, but her health is basically a resource that we can spend. So as long as she doesn't die, it's all fine. It just means we need to do more work to RNG manipulate any missed attacks later on. Speaking of using health as a resource, Wolt in the top right, the archer, is using his to tank this enemy who comes at you at the start. Marcus takes Roy, drops him into a scary situation. Sean is going to go to the armory here. We're going to buy a hand axe and a javelin. These are the extremely useful 1-2 range weapons. You kind of can't have enough of them. And then she moves intentionally into range of these cavaliers because she wants to draw their attention and get some more kills. This is a good point too. Thank you for pointing this out. Her low HP also factors into the AI's target prioritization. They really like to beat up on Roy. So Shauna being there at low health, the AI will detect her as a unit it can finish off, and that makes her a much higher priority. There goes Wolt. HP is a resource to use, and so are characters' lives. Oh, speaking of HP, Roy down to 1 hit point. This is all exactly as planned, so I don't know why I'm nervous for him, but I am. I can't help it. Marcus takes care of the boss, and Roy has survived this throne drop, so he's going to be able to walk to the throne. There was a green unit there, Clarine, I think her name is, but we don't need her. She might have been useful somewhere, but not useful enough. In this map, you are not supposed to just crash through the front gate. Yashi is going to do that. Not only that, is going to drop Roy on the front lines and basically just manipulate away all of the consequences. Almost the entire army is waiting right on the other side of the gate. They're all going to try to get a piece of Roy, but he's got the blessings of RNG on his side. Speaking of, here's a strength, skill, speed, luck, res level up. Already Roy's strength, skill, and speed are getting pretty nasty. He is a competent unit already in terms of offense. He gets a crit there, but he doesn't need it to kill that guy, for example. So the story for this map is just we're passing through. We're on our way to Ostia, and this map is just kind of here. Thane's going to remove... We need to basically clear the way to the throne, so Thane is going to take out one of these enemies. She gets strength, skill, speed, luck, res. Her res is going to be important for later. There are some more dangerous magic enemies. And we use Deke. Deke, even at base level, despite having not gained any levels for a couple chapters, is still strong enough to one round to this guy and clear the way for Marcus to get to the boss with a level up, strength, skill, speed, and Roy to get to the throne. So I've neglected to mention we're traveling with Princess Guinevere. This is Zephiel, the big bad guy's sister. She opposes the war, and she's traveling with us. She has the fire emblem with her, the sacred treasure of Bern. It's said to be the key in sealing the dragon's power or something. On our way to Ostia, we stay at this castle. But Bern is already here, and they've laid another trap. We get a tip from Cass the thief. So Roy he's already walked into the trap. He can't get out of it, but at least he can go in armed. Not that he's going to do much about all these enemies. Marcus and Roy have charged in here. We had the angelic robe looted from the previous chapter that Thani has used to increase her HP by 7. She's also taken some damage, so at low HP, she is now a magnet for all of these enemies. And this is good, because Thani wants all these kills. She wants all the experience she can get, and she's gonna get it. HP, strength, skill, speed, luck. And her high res means she takes no damage and 1 damage from these mages as well, despite being at such low HP. So I think this is Alan, passes Roy to Marcus. Thani at 2 HP charges into all of these enemies to clear the way for Marcus. There are no less than 7 enemies who can target her this turn. Any one of them will kill her. Well, actually, maybe the mages won't. She is pretty tanky on res. Roy also an appealing target for the enemies. He has gotten pretty strong offensively, but he's still pretty squishy. But Thani at low HP is just a very juicy target. Another level, strength, skill, luck, res. And there it is. Thani survives at 2 HP. It couldn't go any other way. It's all planned. But there's still something a little bit thrilling about it. Thani is not done helping out, clearing the way to the boss. Marcus didn't have enough squares, or maybe it's Roy who doesn't have enough squares to get to the throne. Unless we remove that one enemy. Oh, miss cursor movement. Thankfully, this doesn't require resetting the whole stage. A soft reset is able to catch it. Marcus clears the boss. Roy goes to the throne. We're on to Chapter 7. Our spy reports that in the absence of Lord Hector, a rebellion has started in Ostia. One of Bern's Wyvern generals is on the way, so Roy pens a letter to Cecilia, the mage general of good guy capital Etruria. She's his former teacher as well. He asks her for help, and then hurries towards the castle to see what he can do. This is a pretty tough map. There's a lot of enemies all over the place, on all sides. It's difficult to keep units safe, so a lot of units have been undeployed, units that we don't need. Alan has carried Roy closer to where a trio of recruitable horse boys will spawn. Lot and Wade are in position on the right. They're going to be a little bit useful this chapter. Lance has actually unequipped his lance, and that has enticed this knight to move away from his post and attack him, so that square is free for us now. Thani dodges an archer who might have just straight up killed her if he hit. Archers do triple damage to flying units. And Thani and Marcus are just going to jump into the enemy backlines here and tear them up. So with a hammer that is triply effective against knights, even a base level, I think that was Wade. I get Wade and Lot mixed up. Yeah, this is Lot here. So Wade smashes that knight with the hammer. Lot gets a kill, and then Alan, or whoever that is, rescues him out. Roy talks to Zealot, who is basically another Marcus. His stats are very similar. Zealot talks to Trek, who recruits him and then takes off into the front lines to start fighting, and Trek runs away. Thani goes to the shop here. She's going to buy, I think, 4 door keys and a chest key. We do have a thief who can open doors and chests, but he only moves 6 squares as opposed to Thani's 7 or Marcus's 8, so it's more helpful to have those fast-moving units be able to open doors and open chests and things, so the chest key is pretty expensive, but it's money well spent. Here's Zealot and Marcus, just tanking all of these enemies. These enemies would all be a problem for so many of your other units. It's difficult to stress just how strong Zealot and Marcus are for absolutely zero investment. So Roy was still down with the units at the bottom, and has just been, I think it was Wade giving him to Trek, who runs up and gives him to Zealot, and then Zealot runs up and joins everyone at the front gate, ready to move to the boss. So this is Trek, now surrounded by all of these enemies. I don't think we need him at this point. He is expendable. He's taking a lot of damage. But he is just barely going to survive. Everyone else is running away from all of the units up top. Thaney is going over here just for experience. No reason to kill this guy. Thaney just wants to get stronger. Strength, skill, speed, luck. Marcus heads to the boss. He's using that Armor Slayer, and because of his strength level ups, he has just enough damage to get the one-round kill here. Not that it's super important. We drop Roy off, but he didn't have his feet on the ground at the start of the turn, so he doesn't get a turn to act. He can't seize the throne this turn. But this is okay, because this extra turn we can use either Wade or Lot. I forget who it is. He's going to go to the village in the south. All of these red-housed villages have goodies for you to loot, and they're usually pretty good, but the only one we really need is that Killing Edge. That's a sword with high damage and high crit. So we've beaten back the rebels in Ostia, but they still hold the castle. So this is us sieging the castle here. Zealot is swapped in because the only thing better than one Marcus is two. Merlinus grabs the chest key and the two door keys from his convoy and gives one to Marcus. Marcus gets another level up with good offensive stats. Thaney is going to drop off a low durability Iron Lance she doesn't need. She picks up the remaining keys from Merlinus, equips a javelin, and moves into range of an archer. And Lilina, the mage, who we're here to see, is sort of trapped in jail, so she moves out of the archer's range to entice the archer to come fight us and get killed on the right side of the screen. Yeah, this run is total RNG control. It's just about getting the inputs right. Well, it's about carefully planning out the entire game, and then it's about getting the inputs right. And getting the inputs right is not easy. If you are even a little bit off moving the cursor, you're going to draw an arrow, and that arrow is going to use random numbers to determine how it should be drawn, and it's going to throw everything off. So we've already seen Yashi have to restart a couple times just to tiny little mistakes. It makes running this game extremely tough and demanding, even from the execution side of things, not even thinking about the planning and the routing. So a couple of trades and rescues to get Roy, Marcus, Zealot, and Thaney up as far as they can go down this corridor. A nice dodge from Thaney, but her res is so high that even at low HP, this mage is going to opt to fight Marcus instead. So Zealot gives Roy to Marcus. Thaney gets a kill with a crit. Definitely needed that, I think. And then Marcus is going to drop Roy off in front of these enemies. This is an opportunity for Roy to get some experience. I don't know why this knight prefers to fight Marcus. I guess Roy's rapier has effectiveness and scares the knight away, but it's difficult to imagine any AI thinking that Marcus would be less dangerous of an opponent than Roy. These soldiers, though, these are a good opportunity for Roy to get some experience, so this is why he's been dropped off here this turn. Roy gets another skill, gets the experience, nice. Thaney comes in and cleans up. She's at 8 health and there is an archer within range, so she needs to dodge this or she will be dead. Marcus could have killed it, but he kills this guy instead. It's fine, because we know what's gonna happen. She's even equipped a javelin, so she's able to fight back, get the kill, and get the level. She gains strength. She caps speed already at level 11 and gains luck and defense. So she is starting to get pretty scary offensively. And then defensively, we just make sure she never dies, so it doesn't matter. Marcus using these 1-2 range weapons to get so much done on this map. So Thani has grabbed Roy, needs to catch up a little bit on this turn. In the top left, some units have joined. There's Uj, I'm going to call him, OJ. There is Wendy and Barth, and they're all foot-mounted units who just can't really offer us much in our speedrun, so we're not going to pay them much attention. Marcus has got a bunch of door and chest keys, so he opens this door and he's going to move into this treasury to get some of these items. Roy and Thani are going to clear out this corridor. Fantastic level up from Roy. Another fatal arrow dodge. No sweat from Thani. Mage literally does no damage to her. And Marcus actually leaves this mage softened up for Roy to come in and clean up. I actually forget if Roy's wielding his rapier at this point, or if he's using the killing edge. He definitely needs some oomph to get through these armor knights who are going to kill him. Marcus loots a light brand, which is a sword that has 1-2 range. You can sort of attack with a magic attack from range. It's a unique property, and it's pretty rare, so it will be a little bit useful. Not terribly useful, but a little bit useful. Thani gets the attention of these mages from the other side of the wall, who are able to damage her. I bet that guy's probably wielding L-Fire, a high damage magic tome that can get through her res. She gets strength and skill. She's already capped speed, otherwise she would have got it. Marcus uses a second door key to sort of plow through the back of the treasure room. You know, he didn't need to do that. He could have gone around, but door keys are only like 50 gold. So if it opens up a faster route, it's totally worth using. Roy catches up to Thani, who grabs him, carries him up to Marcus. Marcus drops him off and moves to do some combat. The thief Cass, who tipped us off on the previous map, shows up. Marcus gets crit down to 1 hit point. A little bit scary. And now this is really sad. As a reward for essentially saving Roy's life. I think he kind of realized it was a trap anyway, but he just goes in and he kills her off for a bit of experience. It's not even a lot of experience. He got like 40. Then he picks him up. And, you know, you would expect Marcus to grab him and take him closer to the throne or something, but Marcus has another job to do besides just killing this boss, which he is going to do. I think with an Armor Slayer, if I remember right. He actually weakens the boss for Thani to get this level. That's going to be HP, Strength, Skill, Luck. Roy gets a little bit of experience instead of seizing the throne, because we need Marcus to go up and grab some of this treasure. He's going to get a Guiding Ring, which promotes magic users, that I think we are just going to sell for money, if I remember right, and an Elysian Whip. Elysian Whip? I don't know how to say it. It's a whip to promote Pegasus Knights, of which Thani is one, so she will happily use that to promote, and she will do it very soon. So we saved Lelina. She was in jail the whole time, but as long as she lives, you get to play this Gaiden chapter. It's an extra level where we seek out a special treasure. And again, this is the all chapters category, so we must play all of the Gaiden chapters and hold on to all of the special weapons we obtain there to unlock the final chapters of the game. Thani has grown strong enough that she can literally carry the run. She grabs Roy and heads off flying on a route that no one else could possibly take because they don't have wings, so we don't even bring them. It's just the two of them. And she takes off flying. We don't care about any of these tiles that are erupting in flame. We're not going to be standing on any of them. And then turn 3, Thani finally promotes. She's not quite maxed out, so her potential is limited or whatever, but you know, who cares? We're already maxed out our speed, and we're close to capping some of our other stats even, so. This promotion uncaps her speed, gets her up to 22. She can now wield lances better, so she can wield the silver lance, which she's already holding on to. She can also wield swords, which she is using right now. She starts with E rank swords, and we'd like to get it up to D to use an armor slayer later in the run. So that means we need to start using swords to attack whenever we can. Which does mean she won't be attacking at range. Swords don't have a 1-2 range option except for the light brand, which I don't think she can use anyway. So whenever we don't need her to have a ranged attack, we're going to try to sneak in wielding this iron sword to up her sword rank over the course of the run. She gives Roy a killing edge, so that he's got a little more oomph to kill these guys in the throne room. He gets another great level up, HP, strength, skills, everything but defense, actually. And this mage could normally back up and fight Roy at range because he's using that killing edge, but the mage is one of the enemies flagged to not move. Sometimes some of the enemies just are like that, and so with no choice but to fight Roy from melee range, gets himself killed. All for a little bit more experience. This boss is pretty tough, so Thani manipulates the necessary combat to survive. Doesn't even need the crit. Her strength is so scary already that she can one-round the boss. So she's really grown into our boss killer carry at this point. We get the sword Durandal, one of the legendary weapons. Durandal, I'm not sure. It's heavy. It does a boatload of damage, though. I don't think it's actually going to get used over the course of the run. And a lot of story is happening. The Wyvern Riders from Bern finally arrive, but our letter to Cecilia got there in time, and she arrives and drives them away. But Etruria saving Lycia in this moment is tantamount to a declaration of war from Etruria, so they need to kind of smooth it over. They offer a peace treaty to Bern. Bern doesn't respond and kind of goes a little bit dark. So Roy returns to Lycia, and they gather their forces there under the command of Roy's father, Eliwood. They put together the Lycian army, and they want to just defend the borders, and they make Roy the leader of the army. But they get this call, basically. It's not a call. They don't have a phone. A messenger from Etruria sends not a command, but a request that the Lycian army goes to the Western Isles. There's bandits taking over, it's anarchy, and they want the Lycian army to deal with it. And because they just saved the Lycian army in Ostia, they're owed a debt. And so Roy can't say no, and he leaves Lycia to come here. So that was the first. You saw Thani skipped most of the map by flying Roy over. I didn't even talk about it just because it was so straightforward. And we're going to do it again. Thani's going to grab Roy, and there's this sort of lane on the right side of this mountainous region that none of the other units can touch. So it's a really easy clear. Thank you so much for the respect, Sweet Science, but I just want to be clear, I'm not translating the commentary done by Yashi and his commentator. I'm sort of dubbing over it with my own. We're about to drop into a couple of enemy units, so we manipulate the favorable combat we need to survive. Geese is up there. He's a pirate. He's pretty cool. I like him, but he's not helpful to us. So he gets killed off, unfortunately. I think actually the RNG manipulation was more to ensure that he dies, now that I think about it, so that he's not wasting time. No, I don't think it matters, because we're going to kill the boss and seize this turn. That would be pretty morbid if it was, though. I would not be surprised if that was the case. That's the cold sort of calculation that goes into a Fire Emblem speedrun. Thani kills the boss. She gets HP, strength, speed, luck, res. No, that was just strength skill speed res. And then Roy seizes. We get a Worm Slayer, which is a sword that has triple effectiveness versus wyverns and dragons. It's a lot like Durandal, but it's wieldable by units who only have an A rank in swords instead of S, which means Roy can use it, so he will actually use that one. Here in chapter 11, we're joined by Lalam, a dancer. Dancers are great. They let any unit who has already acted act again. Essentially, a dancer is providing more of whatever you need most at any given time, so they're pretty much invaluable. Unfortunately, so much of this speedrun, like this level, is just racing off towards the throne 8 squares every turn, so Lalam isn't able to keep up. So her effectiveness is often limited to just dancing for Thani on turn 1. But even this alone is opening up different strategies that can be used for each of these chapters. Roy is equipped with a light brand if you ever see him attacking at range. We looted that from a chest in a previous chapter. Thani gets the kill on this boss. This map has a ton of stuff. There's all these villages you can visit for items. There's units you can recruit, Echidna, Klein, Tate. Lots of different names for these characters. That's what I'm calling them. They're all interesting for various reasons, but it's not worth doing anything but going straight to the throne. So they all get left behind. So there was a route split. We could have visited a village to go to different maps for the past 2 maps. But I don't think even if it did save time, it would not save enough time to be worth going to the village to change the route. The 2 routes sync up back here in order to fully liberate the Western Isles. Roy is his name. He's going to have to liberate this area, the capital of Jutez? Not sure. And it means going against an Etrurian noble, Arcardo. So he has to sort of betray Etruria, who he is sort of sworn fealty to, in order to do the right thing here. So this is a character moment for him. Strategy-wise, him and Thani are going up the middle. Marcus and the thief Chad are going to the right. They're going to loot some items that we can sell. This next turn is one of my favorites. Thani picks up Roy and then moves specifically into range of 3 archers while carrying Roy. Whenever you carry a unit, your speed is halved, so her chance to dodge is effectively halved from all of these archers. 1, 2, and 3 all miss. No problem. This is the sort of confidence that RNG manipulation can bring. I'm actually not sure why Marcus grabbed Chad there. And then we saw the reset, so that was a mistake, and it was not something fixed with a soft reset. The game is basically auto-saving like every moment in this game, so even if you reset and load back in, there's a good chance that whatever mistake you just made has sort of been eternalized. So this whole chapter is going to have to be redone from the start. The estimate is 155, and the Yashi's speedrun is under an hour 40. Even though the entire thing is completely mapped out, all of the outcomes are certain, there is still all of this extra time on the estimate because it's just so easy for things to go wrong like this. That Dark Mage is using some long-range magic. That's going to become increasingly annoying throughout the run. Okay, so let's see how this move on the right is supposed to be done. Once Thani dodges all of these archers again, no problem.
なるほど。
ただこれ紋章の謎とかだとHP1 にするドラムがもうちょっと命中
Oh, I see. I think there was an extra.
あれ今思うと
Yeah, here's the manipulation that needs to be done. And then Chad is dropped off. And this is all necessary because Roy is going to do a lot here. And so all of this needs to be manipulated to go well for him. We need favorable combat on all of these fights. He needs this level up, HP, strength, skill, speed, luck. Gets a crit there just for fun. He didn't need that one. He needs to dodge a lot of these attacks. There's the archers as well who are going to come in and shoot him. He needs to dodge most of those. Doesn't need to dodge all of them though. He takes at least one hit. Thaini needs to dodge as well. And then this guy, we need a crit to get rid of him. And then 2 level ups were manipulated all on that one turn. HP, no strength this time, but skill, speed, luck. And I think a defense as well. So Roy clears the last guy out of the way for Thaini. And then Chad begins to go through these doors to make his way towards these treasure chests. Thaini has a door key, so she's able to open this door. Removes the bishop. Here's the first treasure chest. Another Elysian whip. And the second one is a blue gem that can be sold for 10,000 gold. The boss kill is actually going to go to Roy. He can wield that Worm Slayer and the boss is a dragon, so Roy has got enough strength level ups to actually one-round this really scary dragon boss. Gets a full 100 experience for doing it. Gets skill and speed on level up. He's almost capped speed. So the presence of that dragon here in an Etrurian castle is proof of Arcardo's betrayal. It's pretty clear at this point that's what's going on, and now the characters are aware of it. This means Lycia is currently undefended, running around, doing what essentially Byrne has told them to do. So there's no time to waste. We have to hurry back to Lycia, except, well, there is this cave nearby, and it's got this cool axe in it, and you know, we beat that map so quickly. 20 turns is the cutoff. We were done in 7, so there's plenty of time to go all the way to this cave and search for our mods, a legendary weapon. So there's these poison jets we're taking care to avoid. Off screen, a bunch of thieves are running around looting all of these treasure chests. We're not really interested in the elixirs and antitoxins and stuff that they have, so largely unconcerned with a lot of that. Roy gets dropped off to do some combat and pick up some experience. He's fast enough to double this Myrmidon, who is normally an extremely fast unit. He caps speed, he's at 15 strength. Roy is beyond a good combat unit at this point. He's downright scary, which is not something you ever see from Roy, really. Not at this point in the game, that's for sure. Off screen, a long-range magic user, I think it's a druid using Eclipse. You can see him now, he's been revealed in the darkness. Even though Thaini is holding Roy, I don't think that Eclipse had any real chance to actually hit. It's got a really low hit rate. These enemies near the throne don't move, so just dropping Roy diagonally away from them and then getting 1 square away herself, both Thaini and Roy are mostly safe and avoid combat from all of these enemies. Not that they would be in particular danger, it's mostly about the time saved of not having to fight anything. Thaini crits the boss, and that doesn't even kill actually, so she dodges a scary axe attack. Gets another level. Thaini she's already got basically all the stats she needs to just smash everything that we need her to smash. Her level ups are almost inconsequential at this point.
話としては、クーデターが起きたので、助けに行きましょうという簡単な説明が。
So,
あ来ましたよ。
a lot happens in the story. A messenger brings news that High Chancellor Rortz and Lord Arcardo, they've gone full mask-off bad guys and are starting a revolution in the Etrurian capital. This is King Zephiel, this outrageous critical attack animation. He's just defeated Cecilia, the mage general who saved us earlier. Her and her forces have been driven to this peninsula because of the rebellion. Roy's a little bit too late to get here.
6巻に乗ってます、6巻に。
6巻ですね。
6巻ですね。
Thani is carrying Roy way out onto the water.
全部あるから。
はい、というわけで、縄文を守ってセシアさんが倒れたわけ
And actually gets hit by this ballista,
そういっ
so
た遠くから攻撃できる
she is
本当にシャニがいた
she is in danger.
けれど、
Wyverns are coming for her.
一瞬
But
の
then Princess Guinevere, who was captured by Zephiel, again reminder she's his sister, and she opposes him in the war and everything. She pleads Milady. I'm gonna call her Milady. Milady, I think, probably. Who is a fantastic unit. If you're playing casually, you should definitely use her. But we don't really need another combat unit, so we're not going to take the time to train her. But just because of her fantastic base stats, being a flying unit and everything, she's still going to be extremely useful to us. So I don't know how Guinevere safely gets back to camp. She was with Milady. I guess she's a really good swimmer. The game doesn't really expect you to be out over the water at turn 3, I guess.
一応見ていてぬカードも用意はしたんですが、まあ
But now Milady is on our team. She steals the Elysian Whip, drops her weapon actually, is currently unarmed, and promotes immediately. So she has 35 HP, 12 speed, and 15 defense, which means she's actually pretty bulky already.
なんですけど、まあマップ攻略中に結構いろんなところでイベント
The
があって
units approach the coast,
人間ドラマみたいになってるっていうのが
and Milady's going to position herself here to absorb some of the damage from the Wyvern Riders and doesn't fight back because she doesn't have the lance. And I've had some time to think about why exactly she's unequipped here. There's a lot of reasons I can think of, right? Like she either doesn't kill the enemies anyway, so it's faster, or we don't want to burn through those random numbers with those combats, or if she killed enemies, she would clear more spaces and would see more combats and might die, or that would be bad for RNG reasons. I'm not 100% sure exactly why that's done, but she does move up to this armory here on this turn before the end of the map. She purchases a Killing Edge and 2 Killer Lances. These are just really good, solid combat weapons. They have high damage and crit, and a pretty low weight, and you only need a C rank to wield them, so lots of units make pretty good use of them. Thani kills the boss. Zephiel left at some point and was replaced with another boss who also leaves and replaces himself with a much more killable boss. And they are killed. A lot happens again. Let me, I guess, talk instead about this desert chapter. We're going to see a second form of RNG manipulation here for Milady. We reset the game and then move over to this square after checking our stat screen briefly. And you can see that a prompt appears that says you've found the silent staff. We do the same thing again, and Cecilia finds these boots. There's something like a 1 in 9 or a 1 in 11 chance to find these items. And the RNG that determines whether you find them or not is different from the RNG we've been manipulating this whole time. There's like a primary and a secondary RNG. So this is a form of secondary RNG manipulation to ensure that we find all of these items. These boots are super important. Look how much further Thani is able to move after she puts them on. These modest pair of brown leather boots are in many ways the best item in the game in order to allow our characters to move further. We don't really need her to do more damage or take less damage, right? What we really need is to just get across the map faster. That's the thing we need most. And so that's what the boots gives us. So we're going to spend a couple turns flying to the oasis, and everyone else is going to scatter and find all of the other goodies that are waiting in the oasis. So let me tell you what we're doing here. Cecilia lives. She is saved from her wounds by a mysterious shaman named Sophia, and she says she comes from Arcadia, a secret town in the desert here, where dragons have been living with humans in harmony for 1,000 years. And King Zephiel has learned of it, and he sent Narshian, his general, with some dragons to siege the city. And so, in honor of Sophia saving Cecilia's life, Roy answers her call for aid and has come here. A lot of units don't move as far in the desert. Mounted units in particular barely go anywhere. So, combined with the fog of war, this is an extremely difficult map, casually. Our flyers and magic users who glide across the top of the sand are able to traverse it pretty quickly. We're almost done. We're doing another reset here. Melody's going to find the warp staff in the bottom right corner. It allows you to teleport units, and that's just obviously extremely good. Though it's going to be a while before we get it. This is Ellen. She's a magic user we've deployed just to run around and pick items. She grabs the silver card, which lets you buy items for half price in the shop. Sophia, down at the bottom, grabs the speed wings, which will give you a +2 speed increase. Our speed is pretty much capped on the units we care about, so I think it's actually just going to be sold for money. Thaney kills the boss, gets another fantastic level up. She just capped speed actually at 28. And everyone's clapping because this is an extremely difficult chapter that just got cleared and completely looted in 3 turns. That's what careful planning and a hefty dose of RNG manipulation can get you. We beat chapter 14 in well under 25 turns, and the little baby Sophia, she's level 1. She is difficult to keep alive, but if you do, she will find out that the temple door here has been forced open, so you investigate, and it contains the magic tome 4 Blaze. It's one of the legendary weapons. So the gimmick of this guidance chapter is that parts of the walkway will collapse every turn, with no indication of which parts and when. And even though we would know because it's a set pattern every time, we're still just going to skip everything. We fly over all of it with Thaney. We drop into a billion enemies. Roy even takes a ton of damage from the boss, but we are going to make sure that they are safe from all of the remaining enemies. So between the boots on Thaney going up to 10 movement and Lalem being able to dance for her on turn 1, we are starting to see Thaney cross some incredible distances on turn 1. Easily beats the boss. Gains a level she doesn't really need. HP, skill, res. And luck. And Roy seizes the throne, and we get the 4 Blaze tome. Some more story stuff is happening, completely skipped. Sophia is half dragon, so she has like a dragon dar that tells her where dragons are. And it's going off something fierce for this dark force being emitted by somewhere in Bern. And a powerful but ultimately useless sniper from the desert, Igreen, joins us. She's just going to hang out. And Faye, who is a little baby dragon girl. And she wants to come, we tell her no, but she sneakily follows us anyway. And she gets caught, this castle in the middle. She's been caught sneaking around there, so this is a rescue mission. Roy and Thaney are doing the thing they always do, but pay attention to Melody in the bottom right corner of the screen. She's landed on a very specific square. Also, Lalem has been deployed in the bottom left. She's here to recruit a unit on the next turn. Percival is one of the generals of Etruria. And he's not happy working for Bern, so Lalem's going to talk to him and convince him to join. He's like a super Marcus for the late game. Look at these enemies on the right. Look at this open lane that they've perfectly left open. Melody, out of their range, doesn't face combat with any of them, and has just parted the Red Sea, has a direct line. She needs full movement to reach the village on this turn. It's just so perfectly constructed. Here's Lalem talking to Percival. Meredy visits the village. This is the Hamurn staff, which will repair items to full durability. And then Roy seizes the throne. he gets a Night Crest, which will promote units that we don't need. That's just money to us. We're going to sell that. So we get Fa back, and that means we can assault Aquileia, the capital of Etruria. We're going to finally crush the rebellion that's happening here. The Wyvern General Narshan has failed one time too many, and so his back is against the wall. He knows Milady is the one who helped the Princess Guinevere escape, so he's going to attempt to imprison Zeiss, her brother, as a sort of bargaining chip. But Zeiss gets wind of this, and so he's hiding in the top left corner of the map. We need to recruit him in order to access all of the guidance chapters. So one of our jobs we need to do here is Milady needs to get all the way to the top left. You can see a lot of actions are happening. We've deployed a lot of units to get a lot done on this map. Wade trades Percival a hammer and a javelin. Thane gets danced deep into the corridor with Percival and drops him off, so they're there to do combat and clear the way. Milady is holding Roy. Marcus is holding Chad, the thief, and Cecilia rescues Lalim out of the way of the bolting mage, who would otherwise threaten her with long-range magic. That's the mage there, just did bolting. We've also got Fa. She's this little girl down here who turns into this big dragon. This is her thing. And the enemies love to target her. It's a quirk of the game's target prioritization. They don't really see the stats she has when she's transformed. So it thinks it's going to do more damage than 0 to her. And it makes her a lightning rod for a lot of these long-range attacks. So she's going to sort of pull the bishop away from hitting our other units. And is basically the sum total of everything we're going to use her for. We do a complex rescue chain to get Chad all the way up here to the front lines. You may think he's looking to open that door and get into the treasury and start looting the treasure chest, but we're more interested in the member card. It's an item that the character Hugh, the mage, who just moved to the top of that wall, is holding. Now, you could recruit Hugh and you would get the member card that way, but he wants $10,000 for his services, and we need that money. So we're going to steal the card off of him and kill him instead. Sorry, Hugh, but we gotta go fast. Amy charges ahead for a bunch of combats. So this member card gets you access to secret shops in the game. There are these special tiles all throughout the game that are maybe a little bit suspicious looking, but pretty hard to find, I think, on a blind playthrough. But they sell some really awesome items. So we want that member card to get in there and purchase them eventually. It'll be a little while before we make use of it. So we're going to see one of the most ridiculous rescue chains in the run. Milady, in the bottom right, who just got hit by that mage, she is currently holding Roy. So she flies... Oh, we're hesitating here because there's a lot that needs to happen and it needs to go right. She flies up, passes Roy to Marcus? No, Percival? Marcus. Marcus moves up and gets danced by Lalim so that he can go again. He passes Roy to Percival. Percival passes Roy to Thane. Thane moves 10 squares and puts Roy into the throne room. So huge forward progress for Roy. 50-yard gain. Roy's going to do some fighting. He gains a level again. That's strength, skill, luck, defense, and res. And the General Douglas, he needs to survive in order to access the Gaiden chapter. He moves just 1 square away from potential disaster of fighting these units. I don't know who I'd be more worried for, him or us, but we would like to avoid combat with him. So we're going to dance around him as much as we can, but it's going to be unavoidable dealing with him a little bit. So we're going to grab Milady. Cecilia grabs her. Lalim dances for her. Another rescue chain has begun. Marcus grabs Lalim to pull her to safety. Cecilia passes Milady to Percival. Percival is going to kill a guy after passing her to Thaini. Roy's going to pick up a kill. And now Thaini, I think Thaini is already stripped. No, hold on. Let's see. Trade. Yeah. The javelin that Milady is holding, we take that off her. So once again, Milady has forgotten to bring a weapon to the battlefield. So she's an enticing target. Douglas goes after her, and she does not fight back and kill him. So this is a good thing for us. Thaini goes ahead because Roy has gone to fight the boss, Narshin. But the real boss is this wall in the top left. Thaini goes after it. It's got 100 hit points, so it's a lot of work to get through it. And on the other side is Zeiss, who we need to recruit. So we need the full might of our strongest units up there, breaking this wall. Roy moves to fight the boss with his Wormslayer. Milady's actually going to attack something. She borrows the javelin back, now that she can fly far enough away from Douglas that he's not in range of anyone. Her brother Zeiss starts trying to kill her friend over the wall. He doesn't really know what's going on yet. Roy with the Wormslayer, 1 rounds Narshin the boss without a crit. That's just how strong he is at this point. Gets HP, strength, skill, luck, defense. He's even starting to get pretty tanky. 10 defense. Milady recruits Zeiss, and Roy seizes the throne. So the king of Etruria is okay. He was captured, but now he's okay. And he asks Roy to clear out the Saint's Tower, because Byrne is still there. And there's good stuff in there. He says if you find anything, you can take it. And one of the things that's in here is one of the legendary weapons we're looking for, the light magic term, I don't know, Aureole? It's a word for like a ring of light. Douglas needed to survive. Here he is. He joins the team. He's a big armor knight. He's got a ton of defense, but he's slow. And we need units who are fast, who move far, like Thaini here. In fact, Thaini is so fast, no one else can keep up with her, so there's no point in anyone else doing anything. Everyone hangs out at the start. Thaini takes Roy, and can't get over these walls with her horse, so she's going to have to remove the enemies as she goes. Whenever she gets the chance, she's going to drop Roy, so Roy can fight and gain some more experience. And that light, that arrow of magic just shot down. That's just going to happen every turn on this map, and there's, again, no warning where it's going to happen. It is a set pattern, so once you learn it, you can avoid it, but until then, it's pretty frustrating. This is a pretty scary map, and it's clearly designed around these long vertical columns to line your units up where they can all get slammed by this magic arrow. Thankfully, we're going to be able to completely avoid it. So Thaini drops off Roy, does some fighting. She's left a paladin here at low health. Roy's going to be able to get this kill. He needs to be somewhere next to Thaini to get rescued. I guess there's a couple squares he could have been to do this, but he uses his light brand to kill him from range. Milady rescues Lalum, drops her weapon again, I think is what that is, and pulls her to safety. Thaini gets a level off of something other than a boss kill for once. She is capped on speed and strength, so her level ups are going to start to become more unimpressive as the run goes on. But like I said, even 5 levels ago, she was already as strong as we needed her to be. The rest of this is just gravy, really. Scary stuff happening. This is a Berserk Staff. If this hits, your character goes Berserk and will start fighting your other units. And given the way that stats are distributed in Fire Emblem, it usually means one of your units is going to kill one of your other units. So it's absolutely unacceptable to let that staff hit us. No Berserk Staff or Sleep Staff will ever hit us in this run. But it's super annoying when you're playing this game casually. Roy has capped skill and speed and is now 1 point away from capping strength as well. We dodge the Berserk Staff once again. There's a bunch of long-range magic targeting us as well. Thaini's high res, she's able to shrug it off. She's basically a magic tank at this point. Don't even need to dodge it. If you don't have a super fast, super strong, super magically resistant unit, all of this stuff hitting you from long range across the map is just it makes this section really tough.
インダムハードだと20とかになって、このゲーム幸運20は回避20なんで、大きい当たんないんですよ全然。餃子に乗ってて。
That's the last arrow. Thaini manipulating her kill. Killer Lance crit. No chance to fight back. And Roy seizes the throne. So we earn Oriole. And from here the route splits. You will either go to the frozen lands of Ilia or the nomadic plains of Sake. And it depends on if your Pegasus Knights have gained more experience than your nomads. And we have not recruited any nomads at all, and Thaini is the damn experience fiend, so we're definitely going to Ilia. I don't actually know if Sake would be faster, but we just are forced to go to Ilia because we definitely want to use Thaini and we don't really care about those other units. I would be curious to know. But we are going to Ilia. We're flying Roy in, and we're going to drop him near the throne, and then Thaini's going to kill the boss, yada yada yada. So let me catch you up with the story. Guinevere, the princess, gives Roy the fire emblem, and it is a key to unlock a great power to fight dragons, to seal dragons. I think it's unclear at this point. And she knows the fight needs to be taken to burn, which she's not happy about, but she knows and agrees that it has to happen. And she asks Roy not to harm any civilians. We've gone to Ilia because this is where the traitors of Etruria, Rorts and Arcardo, they've retreated here, an area under Burn's control. So we're hunting them down. It doesn't really say that we need this strategic launching off point in order to begin our assault on Burn. Like I'm just kind of headcanoning that that's the case. And we're not just spending 4 whole chapters on a personal vengeance mission against 2 guys who are on screen for very little time. There's the boss kill. A level up with some pretty good stats that we don't need. And Roy with the seas. We're going to start getting into the snow proper. If I remember right, the snow in this game is not like Fire Emblem 7. It doesn't actually affect your movement. It definitely doesn't affect Thaini's, I can tell you that. She is going to move her full 10 squares and go all over these maps. We get the typical rescue, move to the edge of Lalam's dance range. Lalam dances, Milady rescues Lalam out of danger, and then Thaini takes Roy into danger as far as she can. Ballista lands a hit early on, so RNG manipulation to keep her safe is going to be necessary. Her and Roy, because there just aren't a lot of safe squares anywhere on the map. But I can't help but think that her stats are so good that not a lot of effort is required to make sure that she's safe. I wish I could see what the hit chances were of all of these enemies. I bet they're all quite low, even while carrying Roy. I don't think this is a miracle of RNG manipulation we're seeing. This one's a little dodgy, especially the Berserk staff. That always has a, I don't know, like a 33% chance to hit or something, and pretty commonly we'll have more. So I've never actually gone the Sake route. I've heard it's bad. I've heard that you get surrounded by a lot of scary enemies and it's just way harder. Maybe one day someone will route the Sake route, speedrun or something, make a different category. There's our boss kill in our C's. Moving on to 19A. Nime is a dark mage who they recruited to slow down the army with a magic spell, but it backfired and froze all the rivers and actually made it easier for us to attack. She was thrown in the dungeons, and we find her, and she confesses she's here to study dragons, and she's got some inside info on the dragons. She's joined us to help with this snowstorm map. So, we've got a lot of characters here who are going to help. Chad gets picked up by Zeiss and is going to take him into the mountains above. Thane grabs the... Oh, where am I here? Thane grabs the warp staff that Melody's had since the desert, grabs Roy, gets to the edge of Nime's movement range. Lalum dances for her, so she's ready to go for later. Melody drops Chad onto the field to reveal our warp destination. We can't warp somewhere we can't see. So that's what so much of this is about. Zeiss taking Chad up into the mountains is trying to reveal a different square. Alright, here we go again, because there was a slight cursor movement that screwed up the RNG manipulation. Zeiss takes Chad into the mountains, then he grabs the warp staff and gets Roy. Lalum dances for her. Melody drops Chad into the vision, and then Nime uses the warp staff. So Nime's got a A rank in stabs, so she can use this warp staff. She's the first unit we have who can. And her magic is really high, so she can warp units really far away. The formula is your magic divided by 2 plus 5. So it's I believe, a 15 square warp that Nime has right now. 21 divided by 2, rounded down to 10 plus 5. Unfortunately, Chad is exposed to the Pegasus Knights, and the death music lingers. I know we have the volume from the game down quite a bit so that you can hear me over the Japanese commentary, but it's still playing, and it's sad. There's just no way to keep him safe while doing everything we need to do on that turn. Zeiss actually gets put to sleep here. I think I lied. I think I said none of these stabs are going to hit us, but this is okay, because Melody is able to rescue him, and she has enough movement to get away from all of those threats. We got another suicide throne drop, literally into darkness. If you were playing this, you would have no idea what was here waiting for you. With 4 health, dropping off Roy, facing anyone who comes. Ballista finds Melody, but she's so dang tanky. Any of these attacks would surely kill Thane. She dodges them all, manipulates the crit against the boss, has another level up, HP luck res, and Roy seizes the throne. So we're almost done in Ilia. The High Chancellor Rortz has retreated all the way to the back of the country here. He's in Castle Edessa. This is Byrne's last hold on the region, so if Roy can take this, he'll be able to move on to Byrne proper. It's a certainty that we're going to finish this chapter in under 25 turns, especially with this warp we're setting up with Nime. But to unlock the Gaiden chapter, we also need to ensure that Zealot and his wife Juno, or Yuno, the imprisoned Falco Knight, the green unit, survive. So we need to recruit her and make sure that everyone survives. Nime is able to warp just to the corner of this throne room so that we can get inside and be ready to fight the boss. Melody pulls Nime back so she's not in danger, and then I think that's Marcus drops her so that she's on the ground and ready to be used next turn. So most of these units are out of reach. Some of them can reach our heroes in the throne room, but this is almost always going to be the case.
これで2名にする
Enemy goes for Nime. Despite her high resistance stat, I think the enemies favor hitting units who are at the bottom of your deployment order
ノーマルでもこれなんで
through some kind of quirk.
これはあれだよね、先ほど言ってた
And Nime, I think, is at the bottom, so that would explain potentially what's going on here. So Nime uses her second turn to warp Zealot into the cage here. You know, is Zealot's wife, so he's one of the units able to recruit her.
9の3を仲間にして
And now that we got her, Fanny can take care of the boss. Down goes Chancellor Rorts with a double crit.
これで悪い人
エトルリアの悪い人
もうあかんからあなたがここをなんとかしなさいと言われて
Oh, she's the only one with a weapon? I could see that being the case. Oh, Roy almost didn't seize the throne there, but he gets it. We get an angelic robe. If I remember right, we also sell that robe.
市民がくれるんですが
全員生存です
脱とかさせなくても生存してる
But before we leave Ilia,
探しておきましょう
どうやんなか
we
った
have
ら
unlocked the Gaiden chapter by saving Zealot and Yuno.
がここでは
This is a horrible map. The burn has somehow managed to erect walls all over the temple, and you have to smash through them.
壁を埋めることに
But I think you've got
入ってこなくて
the idea of how the rest of this run is going to look like. We've got this warp staff.
残念なお知らせとしてそこの2名おばあちゃんがワープをすることによって
So we're gonna just barely find a square right in the middle of the map
壁が無視ですねこれ
and skip all of this junk.
とんでもない話になりますはい、ここで先ほど使った浜を
And then this is Cecilia using the Hamurn staff to repair the warp staff. So it only had 5 uses. We used 4 of them, and now it's back up to 5.
ワープの杖耐久5なんですけど今4回使って残り1回になってるんですが、まあ、それを今ハマーン使って5回に戻しました、まあ、タイムフロシキーみたいな感じのやつですねこれ
浜は使用回数3回なの
3回です、
まあ
まあ、一応3回使うと壊れてしまったら
Oh, the longbow sniper outside.
流れてロスになるんで
I wonder how much damage he would have done if he hit.
ワープの使用回数
Amy's defense is not great. We did not focus on raising it, but we didn't because we can just make sure that no one ever hits her if necessary.
使っちゃうとセチエーションのレベル上がっちゃうんで
So some more annoying long-range staff dodges. We remove the tanky armor boss. And Roy seizes the
これ
throne.
重要ですね
これ重要ですねこれが
This gets us Maltet, the blizzard spear, I think is its flavor
マ
name.
ムクーテやドラゴンナイトに特攻があるので
It's a spear. It's strong.
3倍のダメージ
It does triple damage to dragons, and it's something Thane can actually use. So
ガンガン活躍
that's
して
good that
もらいましょう
these super powerful weapons, we finally got something we can actually use. It's finally time to begin the assault on Burn in earnest, and our target is the Shrine of Seals, where the Fire Emblem is said to unlock the Binding Blade. I think we know at this point it's a sword that has been used to seal the Demon Dragon in the past. I don't think I've said the words Demon Dragon yet. I skipped that part. Nime tells us at some point that there is a Demon Dragon, and it's pretty obvious to everyone that that's who the Dark Priestess is, who I maybe also have not mentioned at some point in the story. But she's got the king's ear, telling him
こ
things.
の剣を使われ
The soldiers don't like her. She creeps him out,
はい、ということでさっきの
and it's
支援
'cause
協力
she's
部内が
not even
ちょっ
human.
とミスりやすいというか忘れてたら取り返し
So we've got another warp strategy.
ちょっと心配だったんですが無事に支援組めて
We get a level up. I think this is a magic level. The previous magic level gives Nime an extra square of warp distance. I don't think this one does. I think it rounds down when you divide by 2.
という司祭が加入しているわけなんですがこの人は杖レベルが S なので全ての杖が使えるスーパーおじいちゃん
But we do a big warp. The secret shop is on this map, and we have a high priority to go and visit the secret shop. So Milady has got a bunch of things to sell, and she's carrying the member card as well. And I think the silver card, though I don't remember seeing it in her inventory now that I think about it. And she's sort of making her way there, but Thane is already next to the boss, and the secret shop is a little bit northeast of the boss in the mountains. So she's pretty far away. Errant cursor movement. This one easily fixed by a quick reset, thankfully. Drops Roy off. This is Yodel. He's a bishop who has been helping Eliwood tells him about the demon dragon at a couple points, and now he's here to help out. He's got an S rank in stabs, so he can also warp our units around if we need him to.
で目の前の敵がガンガン倒されていきますし、ドラゴンナイトもガンガン飛んでくるので、ここは本当に敵ターンが長いです。敵ターン長いですね。一応増援の出てくるエリアみたいなのが決まっていて、
So story-wise, it's become clear this demon dragon has been resurrected by Zephiel, and that's how he's winning the war, basically, with all of these dragons. I think his motivations at this point are unclear, other than, you know, I would want to rule the world, potentially. So Nime has traveled with Milady in order to warp her far enough to reach the shop on this turn. Double checking the stats. Here's the secret shop. So what wonderful thing do we need here? It's boots. Boots, 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 boots! 9 pairs of boots. This is everything we've built up to has led to this, a shopping spree on boots. As well as the sword rank that Thanie's been working on. Finally, she uses the Armor Slayer to kill the boss. That was Murdoch, the right-hand man of Zephiel, who's been guarding the Shrine of Seals. Yeah, so I said it earlier in the Desert chapter, we don't need more damage or more defense. You know, these things were good enough, but we will never have enough movement to move across these gigantic maps. So the best thing we can do for ourselves is to just stack up on movement. So we divvy out the boots. Lalem gets three boots on her head. Thanie's got 2 pairs of boots for both of her Pegasus Knights, for the front feet and the back feet. Roy's got 4. He goes ahead and eats a pair right now. We have Chad 2 on the field. I think his name's Aster. He's been here since chapter 8. But we lost Chad. There's a Chad-shaped hole in our roster, and we need someone to see into the darkness. So Chad 2 is here to help us see where to warp these units. We fly out into a safe square on the water. Thanie and Roy gonna fight the boss, as usual. This is a guide-in chapter. We have saved Milady and Zeiss. So we get to come here. The Shrine of Seals holds 2 weapons. Not just the Binding Blade. We can also come here and get the Dark Magic Tome Apocalypse. And this is the last one we need to find in order to trigger the true ending of the game and all of the extra chapters. Lalem's got a free turn to eat some boots. Thanie as well puts 1 pair on her Pegasus, but we don't have time to sit around and use them, so Roy goes ahead and seizes now. Roy's also holding on to, I think, 3 pairs of boots at this time. So we get a cutscene here that we can't skip, where the characters are talking about the Tome Apocalypse here, as well as the Binding Blade, the titular weapon. We finally get it. And Roy experiences some visions right here. The visions of the sword's previous owner, Hartmut, the legendary warrior of Bern, who used the Sword of Seals to seal away the demon dragon 1,000 years ago. And it's become clear that the Binding Blade has chosen Roy as its new owner. So he gets it. It's a super amazing weapon, and it also triggers his promotion to Master Lord. And as a Master Lord, Roy will max out his sword rank if he hadn't gotten pretty close to it already. It gives him 3 ranks. He's definitely already A rank, but it will get you all the way up to S even if you're at like a C. He gains a bunch of stats that aren't quite as weird as they appeared there. He didn't get like negative defense or anything. I don't know why that screen bugs out. And then he also gets the Binding Blade, which does huge damage. It does triple damage to dragons. It's low weight, so he can wield it without being slowed down. It has 1 to 2 range, which is super awesome. Roy can hit things at range now with a big fire attack. And while you're holding it, you get your defense and res boosted by 5 as well. So it's incredible. Here we have a truly crazy strategy to beat this map in 3 turns. Let me see if I can cover all of this. So Roy equips the Binding Blade and uses the boots. Nime warps Percival to the top right. We need to stand on tiles in the top right and the top left, and then bring Roy to the throne room in the middle. Cecilia repairs the warp staff so that we can keep using it. Marcus rescues Nime and takes her a little bit north. Yuno take drops her so that we can use her next turn. Zealot has carried Roy a little bit north. This is Percival using the hammer to destroy the general who is guarding the top right pressure plate. Alan is waiting. We haven't seen him in like 20 chapters, but he's here to do something. Thane puts the rest of her boots on her horse. Milady moves her further north. Yodel silences this guy in the middle because he's going to be annoying our low-level units. And then Lalem eats some boots for later. A lot happening. Again, just 3 turns we're going to do this map. Percival's hammer is not so good against these berserkers. But he really needed it to fight the armor knights. So Lalem gets fully boots boosted. Nime warps Zealot, who's carrying Roy, over to the throne room. Cecilia rescues Nime to set up Alan for something called a death dance. Alan takes Nime, who's already acted, gets himself killed intentionally, which drops her on the ground, and she's got her turn again. So she uses it to warp Cecilia into the throne room. Thank you so much, Alan, for your sacrifice. Juno takes Nime to safety and to Marcus. Marcus grabs her and the warp staff, loots a chest so that the game prompts you to send an item to the convoy. He sends the warp staff to the convoy. It's now sitting in there for later. Percival moves up to fight the hero on the top right pressure plate, clearing the way. Yodel approaches Merlinus and then grabs the warp staff that was placed in the convoy, so now he's got it across the map and uses it to send Milady, who is carrying Thane, towards the top left pressure plate. We get some RNG manipulation. Milady has still forgotten to bring a weapon, so she will not be fighting the general to clear the way. But for some quirk, he decides he's got a better angle on fighting her from the side, so he's going to move out of the way. Roy's going to do a bunch of combat with his new Binding Blade. He's pretty low level at this point, so he's going to gain levels pretty quick. He's already pretty close to maxing a lot of his stats, though. So here's the general, yeah, moving out of the way for us. Very kind. Zealot gets chunked super hard by this mage. He's down to 2 hit points. There's only 1 turn left. We're going to beat this whole map on the next turn. This involves opening this door with Roy, killing the boss with Roy, and then seizing the throne with Roy. Thane gets the crit she needs to remove this guy off of the pressure plate. I don't know why him standing on it doesn't trigger the pressure plate, but whatever. Think about that. Percival activates the pressure plate on the top right. So now all we need is to get Roy to the door. But first, Yodel warps Lalem into the middle, so now she's ready to help out with this effort. Roy eats some boots next to the door, which triggers the opening. Cecilia grabs him, carries him next to this hero. Zealot now is going to death dance for Roy by getting himself killed. Roy gets another turn, charges into the boss. He needs a lot of help. He needs 2 crits in order to take the boss out, so he comes up here and gets him. We get to see, look at this. I love the animations in this game. They get turned off because they're slow, but look at this stuff. Here's the double crits for the 1 round. But he still needs to seize the throne, so Lalem, with all of her boots, uses all of her movement speed to run in and dance for him to give him another turn he needs to seize the throne on turn 3. And that is just a mind-blowing strategy to do all of that in those few turns. The double death dance, the trick with the warp staff to get it across the map and the convoy. It's excellent. And then we're back to our basic brain strategy of sending Thane with Roy towards the boss. We use our last warp staff usage here from Nime to get her across the water. So that was Zephiel. That was the big bad king. He's defeated. That will be the end of the game if you haven't got all the special treasures. But if you have, then, for some reason, the treasures, when all gathered together, will summon the Dragon Sanctuary, which is where Zephiel has sent Idun, the Dark Priestess, aka the Demon Dragon. He sent her away. He wants her to stay alive and can continue to make dragons, continue to push his plans forward even after death. So this is the order he's given her. Even after I die, keep doing this. And so we need to stop her. Before we can get into the sanctuary, though, the general who took Idun out of Bern and brought her here is guarding the way. This is Brunja, who I think the game says is a Wyvern general earlier in the game, but is clearly not riding a Wyvern. Is a mage. A lot of units here are riding Wyverns, though. Brunja, or Brunya, gives them the opportunity to leave with their lives. They don't have to throw them away here, but all of them are loyal to Bern and loyal to her, so they all stay. And they all get chewed up by this duo of Roy and Thani, who are just super duper strong right now. Now, when I watched this, I thought, surely there's some kind of mistake here, because these units are not dying. They're all in the way. We need to get to the boss and kill the boss, and then seize the throne. But there's no way to get there. Roy, these enemies are all in the way. And I forgot that each of them is wearing 15 pairs of boots, so they can just run around the entire army like they're not even there and end the map. This is, in a lot of ways, the final map. There is a final map after this, but it's just a boss fight and it's gonna end pretty quick. So we have to bring Fa. She's force deployed. We'd rather she wasn't here. She's kind of a liability. So Lalim is gonna hold on to her. It's pretty rare to see Lalim be the one rescuing someone else, but the constitution of Fa when she's untransformed is really low, so even Lalim can pick her up and rescue her. She will not put her down for the entirety of this map. She's just gonna have a little dragon baby in her arms the whole time while she dances around. And so you're gonna see this repeated maneuver. Roy and Thani are gonna go in and kill 2 dragons on enemy phase. One of them is gonna kill another one, and then Roy's gonna seize this throne. And every time he does, he's going to hear from this dragon named John, who introduces himself earlier as a pure dragon. And he is dropping all kinds of lore bombs. Every time you talk to this guy, he tells you all kinds of exposition about what is going on. The demon dragon is no great leader of the dragons. It's actually a tool that the dragons sort of manufactured to help win the war against humans. It's created from a divine dragon whose soul was destroyed because she didn't want to listen to the dragons and churn out weapons of war. So I don't know exactly how, but they've broken her soul so that she will only obey commands and do nothing else. The demon dragon's revival that Zephiel somehow managed to pull off has awakened John's power, and he's been asleep in the sanctuary here for 1,000 years. And also there was a great calamity when the 8 heroes here in the shrine 1,000 years ago clashed with the dragons that created a crazy summer winter that reversed the laws of time and space. It's a lot happens. And the pace at which we've been traveling, I already know I can't give it the emotional weight that it needs for you to care about it at all. I'm telling you because there's nothing else really to tell you. We're going to see the same action again and again and again. And to be honest, I forgot all of this. When I played this, I was very much focused on the numbers and the strategy and the killing, and it was kind of like, yeah, Dark God, whatever. So let me give you the core of the story, the one thing that you should care about, and hopefully maybe you can. The big takeaway is the twin tragedies of Arcadia's existence. It is a town in the desert where dragons and humans have been living together in harmony for 1,000 years. So it can be done. It has been done for 1,000 years. So they didn't really need to have this great war between humans and dragons back in the day. There was a better path. There is a better path. But it was not taken. And the second tragedy is Idun herself. Her soulless body is being forced to follow the orders of a now dead master. And so Roy obviously pities her, but he sees no way forwards, really, but to fight. Yeah, I skipped over Zephiel's father trying to kill him, which causes him to sort of tip over the edge, I guess. He believes the reason he wants dragons to kill all the humans is because he believes humans are corrupt. Down in their very bones and their very soul, they are hopeless. None of the good that humans have ever done are worth all of the bad that they put into the world. So he wants all humans gone. He wants to give the world back to the dragons. That's why he's done everything that he's done. And Roy believes he's wrong. Roy believes that the good in humans outweighs the bad, essentially. So in terms of strategy, it's really just about, aside from RNG manipulation, spreading out the work between Thaini and Roy so that their durability of their weapons is 20 each. And there's a lot of dragons that got to get killed, so there's a lot of crits, making sure that things die in just one hit instead of two. And you just need to make sure that each of them is doing work so that neither of these weapons breaks. At what point does Roy become our boy? I think he definitely, by the time he gets the Binding Blade, he is officially our boy. He gets promoted to Master Boy. So this is the final throne before the actual throne. Thaini takes point. You can see these other dragons that have been spawning behind. This is why we can't bring anyone else with us. No one else can keep up with the movement of these four, or these three. So they would just be back there and dragons would eat them. So it's no good. Here's John. He's been here for 1,000 years. He dies in one round. He doesn't even get out of his chair. He will not move from the chair. He cannot counterattack at range. So you could just plug away at him with like an archer for as long as you want. It's a little silly. So with a dance and a seize, we move on to the very final chapter. Roy tries to reason with Idun, but she is forced to obey her master. So Roy has no choice but to strike. So time is not at this moment. I think it's when you save the game afterwards. But that was the final boss. GG. There it is. 139.46. Great job by Yashi. There's a pretty heartbreaking scene where Fa, the dragon, asks Roy, is she going to grow up to be a bad dragon too? And Roy assures her, no, you are different, don't worry about it. But then he can't really find the words to explain what he has to do to Idun. So I found the fan translation for this text, and thus the war known as the Disturbance of Bern was resolved. Following Bern's surrender, its government was dismantled with the indirect support of the King of Etruria. With Roy's help, Guinevere inherited the throne, and the new kingdom of Bern was formally established. And on the day of her ascension,
じゃあ宣伝とかはないんですが、一応してきますか。来年の1月ですね。2023年1月にシリーズ最新作ファイアーエムブレムエンゲージが発売されることが一応決定しております。はい。ここロイ君も出るみたいなんで。
The Roy is talking to Guinevere.
よろしくお願いします。
I don't know how much of this we're going to see. She urges Roy to take a place in the Etrurian court, but he opts to stay in Lycia to rebuild. We're getting some gameplay. Are we going to see the trial maps or something? I don't know what we're taking a look at here. This is complete free-for-all. So let me patch you up with the finale of the story. Lycia is going to be Roy's home. He's going to rebuild it. Or maybe just showing off the stats here. But we get a shot of Arcadia. Roy goes to visit Faye in Arcadia, and Idun is there. The Binding Blade has a way of reflecting its owner's heart. And so Roy's wish to save her preserves a small part of her soul. And she's brought to Arcadia, and there's a scene where Faye shows her the trees, and a piece of fruit falls on her head, and Idun laughs for the first time. So it's a bittersweet ending for our tragic figure. But it was a fantastic run. It's been a fantastic marathon. Congrats to Yashi. Thank you everyone for sticking around and watching. The RTA in Japan marathon continues. We have Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII, and we will be restreaming it. We have a commentator, Dynamite Dan TNT, is going to be with you for this. So please don't go anywhere. We will have more RTA in Japan.